Hey guys, today I'm going to show you how I took this old broken fountain and turned it into this. It was a lot of work, but I am going to walk you through it because it is so worth it, and I much prefer having this easy to maintain flower/succulent garden instead of a fountain that I had to clean out every 3 months. The very first step in making a succulent fountain is drilling the holes. Now, unfortunately, back then I didn't take a picture of every single step, but the very first thing we did was borrow a hammer drill or impact drill from my dad, and you can actually rent these from Home Depot. And we drilled a hole in every tier. The very bottom tier we did 3 holes, second tier 2, and the top 2 we just did 1 hole each. And then we covered the hole with a wire mesh, like you can see here. We got ours from Home Depot, you can get it from Amazon, but this helps to prevent any of the dirt from clogging up the hole. Then the first thing we did was lay down a layer of rock. Now, this is optional because back in 2017, I thought this was the best idea for drainage, but now I realize it probably would have been better to just do all soil, especially since it's really hard to get the rock out after you've already done it and covered it with soil. So you can just do straight soil, but if it is more cost effective to start with rock, that's fine too. Then I laid down a layer of cactus soil. You want to make sure to use cactus soil, which is fast draining. The number one killer of succulents is too much water. So if they're sitting in water, they're just going to get soggy and rot. So you have to make sure that you have good drainage in whatever you decide to build this in. Speaking of water, if you know it's going to be raining for a couple of days, or especially if there's a big storm coming, make sure to cover your succulents with some sort of protection. I'm using a clear shower curtain liner here, and it works wonderfully. I just kind of clip it all the way around, and it works like a raincoat, and I highly recommend it. It's cheap and easy, but you don't want your succulents to be getting gushes and gushes of water for days on end like we tend to have here in Houston. Okay, next step is plants. So I tend to buy most of my succulents, especially when they're on clearance at Lowe's. All of these that you see here were on one big haul from the Lowe's clearance rack. You can get great deals that way, and truly it's the cheapest way to get succulents, but there are plenty of other options. Another good option is buying in bulk from some online sources. I've seen some really good websites that sell bulk cuttings, or you can get them already rooted, but either way works. You can also go to a garden center and get big containers full of succulents, and it's usually cheaper to get a big container of them that has, 25, 30 of them for 20 bucks. That's a good deal. Typically you're gonna spend a lot more for the bigger showstopper type succulents, but it's definitely worth getting 1 or 2 of those. Or if you watch my next video, I used bromeliads, which ended up being a beautiful addition to this fountain. So this is the very first year, 2017, and I'll tell you right now, I do not know names of succulents, so I'm not even going to try, but I do know my trailing element here was the string of bananas, and if you'll see here, I planted everything, but by 3 months later, everything had flushed out so beautifully, really taken hold, and showed me that they loved their space. Then the winter happened, and unfortunately I did not know to cover my succulents. There are some cold hardy ones, so if you only want to do cold hardy, be my guest, but what I did instead was just buy a frost cover from here on out. But it was a little sad situation to start with for 2018. but I just filled it right up with some more succulents and they grew great. So I protected them well over that winter, and 2019 I really didn't have to add a whole lot. I did add that showstopper agave you can see there in the front, the triple agave there, and a few other things. That's donkey's tail, that's my trailing element that year. And I will say those were hard to work with. Those fall off very easily, so be very fragile with those. And this is what things look like in January of 2020. Everything did wonderful over the winter. Things were big and tall and just gorgeous color. So I actually did not have to add anything. I actually had to take things away. I had to prune things back and cut the leggy ones down, which is something I had to do a couple of times in 2020. So then came 2021, and in February of this year we had the worst freeze ever, down to 10 degrees actually, and so I knew it was going to be bad. I had everything covered like I normally do in the winter, but that wasn't enough, and so the day after it snowed the first time, I went outside and tried to save some of the succulents. Unfortunately, most of them were soaked and they had just soaked in all that water, and it just made a lot of them rot. So I did save some, and I was able to use them this year. But until recently, that whole area has been a sad situation. But today I cleaned it up, refreshed the soil completely, and potted it out, and I would have to say that this year is definitely one of my favorites. I filled it to the brim, and I used bromeliads, and decided this year to use some regular plants instead of just succulents. I go into all that detail in my next video on replanting my succulent fountain for the 5th year. I do want to quickly mention, whenever I change out the succulents or see a bunch of leaves falling off, I pick up the leaves to propagate them. And there's lots of fun designs you can do with a bunch of leaves, or especially if your succulents are getting leggy and you just need to chop off the top of it, then you have this long stem full of leaves that you need to do something with. And succulents are amazing because they just keep reproducing themselves. No help needed. You just stick them on the dirt, don't mess with them, and they'll start growing. So I really hope this helped you guys to have a little grasp on how to do this project. I wish I would have the video and photos of exactly how it was done back 5 years ago, but hopefully this helped. Just let me know if you have any questions in the comments below. You'll have a great day, and I hope this inspired you to plant today.